All right, now that you've done simplifying radicals, let's go ahead and review Pythagorean theorem. All right, so what does Pythagorean theorem say? Pythagorean theorem says that a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. A and b are your legs, and c is your hypotenuse. Hypotenuse, and I might be spelling this wrong. All right, so c is your hypotenuse, the longest one. Okay, longest side. All right, whereas a and b, and the order doesn't matter, are your legs that meet at 90 degrees. What that means is a perfect right angle. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and find the distance between these 2 points using Pythagorean theorem. So I'm going to first start off by plotting. Remember, the first point is x and then y, x and then y. So x is 2, so this is your x-axis right here. X is 2, y is 5, so this point right here. Okay, so that's your point right there. And then 6 and 2, so x is 6, and then you're going to go y2. All right, so these are your 2 points. You are finding the distance between these 2 points, so the distance there. Notice it's not a straight horizontal or vertical line where you can count the boxes. You cannot count boxes diagonally. So there's this thing called the Pythagorean theorem, which says once you plot the coordinates and connect them, draw a horizontal x and a vertical y lines to form a 90-degree triangle. So remember, a 90-degree triangle meets at 90 degrees, like a perfect L shape, right? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start first with the x. So I'm just going to draw it horizontally. Now, instead of going on forever, I'm going to stop in such a way that I can also draw a vertical y. So I don't need these extra little pieces that I did. I can just see that this will make my perfect L, and there's my 90 degrees. So you're just going to draw horizontally until you're right underneath the next point. Now, I could draw it this way, or I could draw it, so I could have started this one horizontally until I'm above the other point, then straight down. So it does not matter how you draw your triangle as long as it meets at 90 degrees. So it's going to form 2 legs that meet at a 90 degrees, a perfect L. All right, now once I have my perfect L, it says count the X line and the Y line. So let's count the boxes. One of your biggest mistakes is you start counting before you move. I cannot count until I move. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this has 4 boxes. Another way you can count, if you don't want to count the lines, you can count the actual physical boxes. Like if you look right here, this is a box. This is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. So it doesn't matter how you want to count. You can count on the actual points, 1, 2, 3, 4, or you can count the boxes themselves. Like this is a box, this is a box, this is a box. All right, so once you've counted the boxes, because you can count horizontal and vertical boxes, what you're going to do is now plug it into the Pythagorean theorem formula. So here is the formula. It says, take the legs, square them individually, and add them together. So what are my legs? My first leg, and again, it doesn't matter the order. 3 is my leg. I'm going to square it. Then I'm going to take my other leg, which is 4, and then I'm going to square that. And that's going to give me the longest side, or the hypotenuse, squared. So what we're going to do is put that straight into a calculator. 3 shift 6 squared plus 4 shift 6 squared. And that's going to give me 25. So it's saying that 25 is equal to c squared. Well, I'm not looking for the hypotenuse squared. I just want the hypotenuse. So what I must always remember to do, and again, I want to emphasize this really hard, I must take the square root of both sides so that I can just get the hypotenuse. So if you just square the legs and add them together, you've gotten the hypotenuse squared. You must take the square root of it. So this gives me c is equal to the square root of 25. Now let's assume that I don't know that that's a perfect square. I will now be using the skills I just learned or remembered in simplifying radicals to simplify that, because if you don't write it in the simplest form, you will get it wrong. So again, we start off with the question itself, and I can see it's a perfect number, but I'm going to ignore that for a second because I want to make sure we're practicing the one that's not a perfect number. All right, so again, you start with 25 and you start breaking that down. I check 2, it doesn't work. I check 3, it doesn't work. I go to 5, it works. So it's 5 times 5. So what I'm saying is, and 5 doesn't break down anymore, 5 times 5 is going to give me that 5. It matches. What do you see? 2 cards make how many books? 1 book. So those 2 cards are going to make a book. There is nothing left in my hand, so I can just put my hand down. And that's why I see it's still 5. So the square root of 25 is 5, but I just reminded you how to also simplify radicals. So c is equal to 5. And that's how you do Pythagorean theorem. So you're going to pause the video right here, and you're going to come to this question here, And please go ahead and use Pythagorean theorem to repeat what I just did and simplify. Let's practice.